And Genevieve Hansen was on the stand this morning to answer a few quick questions. Now, we are in a stretch break right now, Lou, and we have some more clarity.
Actually, Chris, the court is coming back. Let's listen in.
All right, sir, just a reminder, you're still under oath. And I believe we were dealing with Exhibit 31.
Correct, Your Honor. And just for the record, if I did already offer Exhibit 31, I will, just for the record, re-offer Exhibit 31.
No objection, Your Honor. All right, 31 is received. Do you wish for it to be published?
Yes, Your Honor. And Mr. Martin, what I'm going to do now is start playing Exhibit 31. And just like the previous video, at some points we'll just stop and I'll ask you some questions about it, all right?
Okay.
So for the record, this is starting at about 7:55, and I think 46 seconds roughly on the timestamp on the video, correct? I'm going to pause it right here because the first part that we watched showed you and somebody walking out of the store, correct?
Yes.
And that portion of the video is from the security camera inside the store, correct?
Yes.
And so the person that you were walking out with, and again, you don't have to give us his name, but it was a coworker?
Yes.
All right. And so now we're looking at a separate camera angle from outside the store, correct?
Yes.
And this timestamp, obviously different than the previous one because this shows 2019-12, correct?
Correct.
And do you recognize what area is depicted in this video as we're looking at it right now?
This is 38th Street and the side of Cup Foods.
And if you want to use the stylus too, just kind of point out, the door of Cup Foods and 38th in Chicago. So that's the door, correct?
Correct.
And then which street is 38th, just so we're clear? Okay. And Chicago then is the other street depicted, right?
Correct.
And is the counter where you sell the tobacco products visible in this image?
Correct.
And where is that? And so for the record, you've drawn a small line sort of on the window on the side of Cup Foods, right?
Correct.
And so when you told the jurors earlier that you were able to look out and see where Mr. Floyd went, did you use that window to look out and see that?
Correct.
All right. And so then let's, Your Honor, if you could clear the screen, please. Thank you. And then we will roll this video here for a little bit. Stop it here. And so can you tell the jurors then when you crossed the road and went to this vehicle, obviously the video shows you approaching the passenger side, correct?
Correct.
And why did you approach the passenger side?
Well, I didn't want to stand on the driver's seat side because that's where George was, but there's also oncoming traffic that I wouldn't be able to see, so I chose to go around.
Okay. Why didn't you want to go to the side where Mr. Floyd was?
Because of the oncoming traffic in the street.
It wasn't about Mr. Floyd, it was the traffic.
Yes.
All right. And so we see you then here sort of behind your coworker. And tell us about then, did you have a conversation with the occupants of the car?
Sort of. I notified them that they needed to come back into the store and that the bill was fake and that my boss wanted to talk to them. To George, actually. Sorry, not to both of them, just to George.
And so when you approached the car from the passenger side, did you see how many people were in the car?
3.
And where were the 3 people in the car?
George was in the driver's seat. His friend was in the passenger seat, and there was a woman in the back seat in the middle, or possibly on the right back behind the passenger.
And so, had you seen any of those individuals before that day?
No,
Had you seen him in the store earlier?
just the male.
And when you had this conversation at the vehicle, who were you talking to?
The person that George was with.
So the guy in the passenger seat, the front
Correct.
passenger? And did you make any observations at that time of Mr. Floyd?
Correct.
What did you see regarding Mr. Floyd?
He just seemed like he didn't want this to happen. Like he was just kind of like, why is this happening? Sort of thing.
Did he seem awake?
Yes.
And did he talk to you at all?
Not really. He just kind of shook his head.
And the passenger in the front passenger seat, did he talk to you at all?
Correct.
And I want you to tell us what he said, but the end result, did they agree to come into the store?
No.
When you were there at the vehicle, who did you do most of the talking to?
The person in the passenger seat.
And did you think that you were talking loud enough for the other people in the vehicle to hear you?
Correct.
And so then after that conversation, what did you do after that?
I went back inside with my coworker.
And when you got back inside the store, what did you do?
I told my manager that he did not want to come into the store.
And did you get some further direction then from your manager?
Correct.
And what was that?
Go back outside again and tell him to come inside the store so we can talk to him.
All right, so try it again, in other words.
Correct.
And then for that second trip, did you go with some other coworkers?
Correct.
All right, so what I'm going to do now is start Exhibit 31 up again, and we'll watch that process, okay? So I'm going to stop Exhibit 31 here briefly because the image has changed, correct?
Correct.
And now this video is of the inside of Cup Foods again, correct?
Correct.
And so we'll see here that you come in, and this is when you had the conversation with your manager about the first trip.
Correct.
All right, so let's let 31 run again, please. Now, if we can stop here for a moment, and the timestamp reflects 7:57:56. You've kind of walked off screen, correct?
Correct.
And what was going on at this point in time?
I think that was the conversation I had with my manager when I was saying that he did not want to come inside, but I'd offer to pay, but he said no, just tell him to come back inside.
So did you tell your manager you would just take care of the 20?
I believe so. I did.
And but he directed you then to go back to the vehicle again.
Correct.
Now, we saw you go out on the first trip with another individual, another employee,
Correct.
and he did not come back into the store, did he?
No, he left.
And so when you were told by the manager to go out a second time, did you take some other coworkers with you?
Correct.
Whose idea was that?
I'm not sure.
Okay. All right, so let's run Exhibit 31 again, please. pause the video right here if we could, please. And for the record, now we're back outside again, correct?
Correct.
And the record should reflect that we paused at 20:21:43. So we see that two other individuals coming out before you, correct? And there's appears to be a woman in a black jacket, correct?
Correct.
And is she a coworker, or was she at the time?
Correct.
And she worked there longer than you?
Correct.
And the other individual has a white T-shirt on, and he worked there longer than you?
Correct.
And is he actually related to the owners of the store?
Correct.
And so they were out ahead of you at this point, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you had to sort of jog to keep up with them, didn't you?
Correct.
And all right, so let's run 31 then. Now let's pause here just for a moment, please. The record should reflect we're at 20:22:15 as the timestamp when we paused it. The individual in the white T-shirt initially went up to the driver's side, correct?
Correct.
And we see you standing here behind the SUV, correct?
Correct.
And eventually the individual in the white T-shirt went around to the passenger side door, which was open.
Correct.
And were you able to hear the conversation that the guy in the white T-shirt was having with the occupants of the vehicle?
At this point in time, I was not able to hear.
So then let's run the video some more, please. All right, now we see, if we can pause here, please. This is 20:22:21. You walked up to the passenger side of the SUV, correct?
Correct.
So at this point, were you able to hear the conversations that the individual in the white T-shirt was having with the occupants?
Correct.
And were you also able to hear what the occupants of the vehicle were saying and doing?
Correct.
And can you describe for the jurors then what occurred during this period at the SUV?
So in the second time we went out, the person in the passenger seat was doing most of the talking. We were telling him, just come inside, we just want to talk to George. And the person in the passenger seat was saying how, that's not me, like, I tried to use a fake bill and you put me on game, so I ripped it. And that'll happen in the video because he also tried to use a fake bill that I did not let him use, and then he ripped it and he put it on the ground there. So he was just explaining like what had happened.
And so just to be clear, you said the passenger seat, you're talking about the front passenger seat.
Correct.
And at that time, did you have any interaction with Mr. Floyd directly?
I do not recall.
All right. So let's run Exhibit 31 a little bit. Now I'm going to pause it here real quickly, please. And for the record, it's 20:22:34. We saw the individual in the white T-shirt sort of bend over and pick something up. Can you tell the jury what was happening there?
He was picking up the fake bill that the individual in the passenger seat tried to use.
Okay. And you
Right.
referenced earlier one that was torn in half.
Correct.
Is that the bill that was torn in half?
Correct.
All right. And let's keep running 31 then, please. Asked to pause it right here, please. The timestamp reflects 20:23:35. It appears the two of you are now walking away from the SUV, correct?
Correct.
So during those preceding moments, it appears that the two of you are talking with at least some occupants of the vehicle.
Correct.
And did you have any conversations with Mr. Floyd, or was it just the front seat passenger?
Just the front seat passenger.
Were you able to see Mr. Floyd at all during that interaction?
Correct.
What did you see about him?
As I said earlier, he was just kind of shaking his head and putting his hands in the air, like kind of like, why is this happening to me? Like, I don't want this to happen, sort of thing.
And so he appeared to be awake?
Correct.
And so what was the end result of that conversation?
George Floyd did not choose to come into the store.
Okay, neither did the passenger front.
Correct.
All right. And so then let's watch Exhibit 31 run here, please. So that the end of that video shows you and the other individual entering back into the store, correct?
Correct.
Okay. When you got back into the store, what did you do about the 2 trips out to the vehicle?
We told our manager that he still refused to come into the store.
And do you know what the manager decided to do about that?
He instructed one of my coworkers to call the police.
And so did you know if that happened?
Correct.
That somebody did call the police?
Correct.
Was it you who called the police about it?
No.
Was it another coworker?
Correct.
And did you ask the coworker to make the call?
No.
And were you present when he made the call?
Correct.
Okay. So you were there next to him or something?
Correct.
And so at some point, did the police respond to the store?
Correct.
And when they responded, did you see the officers actually come into the store?
I do not recall.
All right. Did they deal with you when they came to the store?
No.
Do you know who they dealt with?
They went and talked to my manager.
And you were not involved in the conversations with the officers at all at that time?
No.
So what did you do?
I was still working cashier.
Just went about your business?
Correct.
And as you did that, as you continued working, did you notice a commotion out in front of the store?
Correct.
Do you recall what it was that sort of first drew your attention out there?
I just saw a few people at first, and then the crowd grew larger, and pretty soon the store was empty as well, so there was no one that I needed to help inside the store, so then I proceeded to go outside and see what was happening.
When you saw this crowd gathering, where was the crowd?
It was right where the bus stop is on Chicago,
So kind of right in front
or a
of the
little to the left.
Right in front of the store?
10 paces.
I'm sorry, I spoke over you.
Sorry, I was just saying it was just 10 paces to the left of the bus stop.
All right. And so the bus stop, as you're looking out from the store? Does that make sense?
Correct.
And so did you, in fact, decide to go out and look into what the crowd was gathering for?
Correct.
And when you went out there, what did you see?
I saw people yelling and screaming. I saw Derek with his knee on George's neck on the ground.
So let me back up just a little bit. Now, you say Derek, do you mean Mr. Chauvin?
Correct.
Now, did you know who that person was at the time?
No.
So you've just learned his name since then?
Correct.
So was that person wearing a police uniform?
Correct.
And where did you see that individual?
On top of George Floyd.
And you didn't, well, other than seeing Mr. Floyd that day, you did not know him before then, correct?
Correct.
Did you recognize him as the person who had been in the store earlier?
Correct.
And the person that you had tried to talk to in the SUV?
Correct.
And did you see any other officers in the area?
I saw, I think his name is Officer Tao.
And where did you see him?
He was in front of the crowd, kind of telling people to stand back.
And do you remember about how many people were in the crowd?
Probably about several.
And when they were, what did you see the officer on Mr. Floyd? What was the relation of their two bodies? What was happening there?
George was motionless, limp, and Chauvin seemed he was in a resting state, meaning like he just rested his knee on his neck.
And what did you do when you saw that?
I pulled my phone out first and I called my mom and told her not to come downstairs, and then I started recording.
And did you make a recording?
Correct.
Did you keep that recording?
No.
Why not?
Later on that night, I deleted it because when they picked George up off of the ground, the ambulance went straight on 38th instead of going straight on Chicago. And if you live in South Minneapolis, the easiest way to get to the hospital would have been straight on Chicago. So that to me kind of made it like clear that he was no longer with us.
So you thought he had died?
Correct.
Not quite sure why that would, make you delete the video.
Oh, I just didn't want to have to show it to anyone or be questioned about it.
And so after you called your mom, you started taking a video, what did you do after that?
I was recording until one of my coworkers was pushed by an officer.
And so what had you seen the coworker do right before the push?
He was yelling at the officer, kind of how the other people in the crowd were doing, and asking them to check his pulse, if he's breathing, see if he's okay, kind of thing.
So did he leave the sidewalk, the curb area, and go onto the road?
Correct.
Okay. How far?
I do not recall.
This coworker of yours that got pushed, do you know how old he was that day?
I do not recall.
Is he older or younger than you?
Younger.
So, a teenager.
Correct.
And after he got pushed, did you see what happened to him or what became of him?
Yes. My other coworker just like grabbed him up and brought him inside.
So removed him from the scene?
Correct.
And prior to coming into court, did we show you a security video from Cup Foods that shows that area?
Correct.
And that area while you were out there?
Correct.
And did that appear to depict truly and accurately the time period during which you were out there during this incident?
Correct.
And Your Honor, I'd offer then what we've marked as Exhibit 33.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
33 is received.
All right, so now I'm going to start showing Exhibit 33, and we may pause this like we had done the other videos, all right? I'm going to pause it right here for a moment. You recognize this scene?
Correct.
And this is you in the foreground, right?
Correct.
And what were you doing right at that moment?
That was when I was calling my mom to tell her not to come down the stairs.
And if she were to come down the stairs this is where you were living, correct?
Correct.
Is the door she would have come out, would that have been in this scene?
Correct.
Can you take that stylus and just show where that door would be?
It would swing open right here.
So if she had come down, she would come right into this scene, correct?
Correct.
And then you talked about a coworker who was younger than you who came out. Is that the individual in the white t-shirt?
Correct.
All right. And, okay, so then we will continue to run Exhibit 33, please. pause it right here, please. For the record, this is 8:28:34. And can you describe for the jurors what you're doing at this moment?
I was recording the scene.
So this, you had walked farther over towards the scene,
Correct.
and really by the door where your mom would have come out if she had come out.
Correct.
And the individual in the white T-shirt, he had stepped off the curb into the street here, correct?
Correct.
All right. And so then let's continue to run Exhibit 33, please. And we're going to pause right there, please, at 8:28:41. Is that the moment you were talking about when your coworker got pushed?
Correct.
And did you see it all anywhere in there where he touched the police officer?
No.
And so then you are now standing around behind that group of people, correct?
Correct.
Did you know anybody in that crowd?
My 2 coworkers.
All right. So right now, if you could just put like a line or a dot on where your 2 coworkers are. And both of those are individuals who went out during the second trip to the SUV, correct?
Correct.
And did you know any of the other people there in the crowd at the time?
Not at the time.
Okay. Did you know Miss Funari?
I think. Yes.
Do you know Alyssa Funari?
Yes.
And was she there at the time?
Correct.
Do you see where she is now?
Correct.
All right. And how did you know her?
Just through school.
And all right, so then let's continue to run Exhibit 33, please. Now I'm going to stop right here, please. Can you describe for the jurors and what we're seeing, what's going on there in that segment of the video?
That was when one of the coworkers kind of grabbed up the other coworker and brought him back inside, and I was just yelling like, "Chill out, chill out, chill out."
And so when his coworkers came to get the young man in the white T-shirt, he went with them back into the store.
Correct.
And you were following them?
Correct.
All right, so let's continue to run 33 then. Now I'm going to pause here for a moment, please. For the record, 8:29:04. Can you tell the jurors what happened, what you were doing here, I guess?
At this point, I think I was just kind of emotional, and I went to the African American that was standing there in the curb, and I was just like they're not gonna help him. This is what we have to deal with. So.
Okay.
Sustained.
Yeah,
He'll be stricken.
That's fine. So you had a conversation with another person standing there.
Correct.
And when you walked up there, we saw just before I stopped it, there was a young girl there in a green shirt. Did you see her when you were walking up there?
Correct.
You remember seeing her in the store earlier?
Correct.
Did you know who she was?
No.
And you remember being the cashier when she was in the store earlier?
Correct.
And then can we continue to run Exhibit 33, please? Pause here for a moment. The record should reflect 8:29:55. We saw you standing there with your hands on your head for a while, correct?
Correct.
What was going through your mind during that time period?
Disbelief and guilt.
Okay. Why guilt?
If I would have just not taken the bill, this could have been avoided.
We also saw another individual get pushed by an officer, correct?
Correct.
And what did you do after that happened?
I was just trying to calm him down, tell him to stand back.
So, and all right, so let's continue running 33 then, please. Who are you talking to there, Mr. Arden?
My mom.
Okay, so that takes us to the end of Exhibit 33. You were going back into the store.
Correct.
And so then did you just continue to work your shift?
Correct.
And so did you continue to work at Cup Foods as long as you could?
No.
Why not?
I didn't feel safe.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.